Welcome to Spam Filter for Your Brain, bite-sized ponderings on how our thoughts influence our behaviour and our lives, and because we're all connected, how our thoughts impact the world. I'm here to help people reconnect with their bodies and declutter their brains. And I don't believe that we should just magically know how our emotions and our thoughts impact our lives if no one ever teaches us. So let's learn this stuff together. One of the things I hear a lot when people tell me of a difficulty that they're trying to navigate their way through is quite often when I ask people what's going on, they will give me a bit of a story, a bit of a highlights and the lowlights of a particular circumstance. And quite often when I'm listening, what I'm listening for is who they're talking about. And this is something that I watch in myself quite a lot, and I try and check myself. When I'm talking about any particular situation, quite often we get down to a lot of like, he said, she said, they said, or they did this, or when we were doing these things, they spoke in this manner, or they said these words, or I can't believe they said these things to me, or why aren't they doing this thing? And very, very often, a lot of these thoughts are pointing outwards towards the other person. What are they doing? Where are they going wrong? Where am I being harmed by their behaviour or their words or their actions? Or I wouldn't do something like that, so why are they doing it? And when we do that, there's an old Buddhist analogy, philosophy thing. There's an old Buddhist thing. I don't know the right word for it. Useful on a podcast, I know. But when you point at somebody else, like if you imagine, if you raise your hand out in front of you and you do a pointing action, that you have three fingers pointing back to yourself. Personally, I also have one finger pointing up into the universe as well. It's my thumb. But when you have that pointing action, that you're pointing back at yourself. And we don't often clock when we are excluding ourselves from the stories that we are telling, other than including ourselves as a passive victim. Really often, I say we. I'm clearly talking about me, but I listen to a lot of other people doing it as well. And I think it can be really useful when we're trying to unpick stuff, especially the stuff that feels really hard and tricky and sort of grates in our belly and the things that keeps us awake at night we can't let go, of asking yourself, where are you in the story? Like, how can you bring this thought back to I did this, I felt that, I didn't enjoy when they did that. Where is your agency in this story? Because if you're not talking about yourself, why? And quite often it's because we have this slightly weird delusion that we can control other people, or if we just tell ourselves how wrong everyone else is, then it will make us feel better. But it doesn't. It feels rubbish. What we can do under any circumstances, work out how we feel about things, what we want to do about it, and how we want to continue this in our world or not, whether we want that interaction to continue, whether we want this thing to perpetuate, build, grow, bloom in our lives, or whether it's something that we want to put down or leave behind. And we can't do that when we are lost in pontificating about how terrible everybody else is and why they did all these things wrong. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing wrong? What are you doing right? Like, maybe one of the things that you're doing wrong is tolerating this shit. But we can't even identify that if we're all so caught up in what they should and shouldn't have. It's genuinely most of the time irrelevant. As soon as we're lost in they should or shouldn't have, but they probably did. So now that that is done, what is your role in this? Where do you want to go next? Where do you go from here now that this thing has been done or has been said or they've done the thing? Giving yourself back your agency is one of the grandest prizes I think you can give yourself. And I have yet to see an example where it isn't a huge key to a sense of liberty and a sense of feeling like your life is your own again. And like you're not at the whims of other people's decisions, choices and actions. So just a little brief one this week of inviting you to pause and think, who am I telling this story about and how can I bring it back to myself? I'll speak to you next week. If you've been enjoying what you're hearing on the podcast, you will love Self-Care School. Self-Care School is longer versions of this, more in-depth and more personalised. We have a whole hub of courses from body image to boundaries, perfectionism, time management, and a whole range of other topics. You name it, there's probably a course on it. But most importantly, we also have a weekly group coaching call where you get to apply this stuff to your everyday life and get support to try and untangle your own story from some of the emotions that you might not be enjoying in your life. If you would like to learn how to apply this work to your specific situation and to be building a life of your dreams, I would love to see you inside. Do pop over to selfcareschool.co.uk.